Hey, it's time for another installment of Talking Microsoft. Got a good show hopefully lined up for you today. Wow, man, this has been just one heck of a day. I actually have been working on just recording the show for 5 hours because I actually got through the first recording of the episode, went to edit the video, and the audio was totally wonky for whatever reason. Now I upgraded. I use Open Broadcaster to record each episode of Talking Microsoft, and there was a new version, and I installed it. And bottom line is that I use a Scarlett, the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 as an audio interface, and ended up having to reinstall the driver for this thing. And so far, all my tests after reinstalling the driver, everything has been okay. So hopefully that'll take care of it and I won't have any future audio problems. Let's get started on this install. Oh, one other piece of business on this before we get started is I did try to do these weekly for a few weeks. This show is a lot of work. There's a lot of research involved, and I just don't really have time. So I'm going to try to put out 2 episodes a month for the time being. I've also been asked if I would do this as a audio podcast. Maybe that may come down the road, just depending on the interest in that. So we shall see. Let's get started with some of the top stories about Microsoft. And the first one is that on August the 2nd, the Windows 10 anniversary update was going to launch. However, Microsoft is advising folks, look, you may not get it right away. This is a global rollout. Windows PCs, of course, are the first in line, and then things like Xbox and your Surface and all those other products, those will kind of go after, I guess. It's a global rollout. It's going to take a little bit of time. Don't panic. All the features of the anniversary update is baked into the RTM that people will also be able to download as well on August the 2nd. One piece of advice I do have for you: when the rollout comes, the update comes, make sure that you don't have any unnecessary items connected to your computer. I have an external USB drive that I use for backups on this thing, and that prevented the last major update to Windows from installing. So just thought I would share that with you. Microsoft admits it's going to take more time to get to Windows 10 to get on 1 billion devices. What Microsoft has said is that they predicted that within 3 years, Windows 10 would be on 1 billion devices. Now, about a year later, Microsoft has Windows 10 installed on 350 million devices, and that is huge by no small stretch of the imagination. That is a major victory for Microsoft. They're over a third of the way there. They figured a 3-year rollout. However, due to a slowdown in PC sales, the adoption rate is going to decline a little bit. And so it's going to take a little bit longer to hit that billion device mark. I think they're on their way. And, they've scaled down their phones and been concentrating on some other stuff. So Microsoft is blaming its decision to scale down the smartphone business over the last year for the delay. So just maybe that's not exciting news to you folks, but I just think that Microsoft has definitely got a real mega hit here with Windows 10. However, it is not perfect, nor do I agree with the somewhat underhanded tactics Microsoft used to coax people into upgrading to Windows 10. And I think some of their practices they've already settled with somebody, like 10 grand or something like that, who had an unwanted update. And I think that we're going to see more and more potentially class action lawsuits arising from the way Microsoft handled the upgrades on Windows 10. If you are in the market for some educational material, some great reading material on Microsoft products, including things such as Office 365, Azure, SharePoint 2016 Exchange, SQL Server, a whole lot more. Microsoft's Microsoft MSDN blog is offering a healthy collection, as they say, of 240 plus ebooks right now that you can go download for absolutely free. That's the thing. I was telling my wife, I remember when I first got serious into the world of Microsoft back in let's just say 1990 something. You would go to a bookstore like Barnes and Noble, and you would look for, say, a book on, I was actually looking for a book one time on best practices for NT 4.0. And they had a book like this thick, I kid you not, $90 for this book. And I paid it. And they told me, we keep selling out of this book. We keep selling out at $90 a copy. Thank God for the internet and the availability of electronic books, and PDF. And by the way, these books are available in PDF, EPUB, even Word files as well. So there's different formats you can download these books. But the amount of information you can get for free that we used to have to pay a huge amount of money to get in your car. And I lived in Phoenix at the time, and I would have to drive halfway across town in order to get the book. And, it was just, this was, of course, the days before Amazon and all that. So you went to the bookstore, and inevitably, I would end up spending $200 or $300 at Barnes and Noble on books and other stuff. It's, oh, wow, those were the days. This is so amazing that you have access to all this information for free. Now, if you are interested in becoming an IT professional, or you're looking to sharpen your skills, you need to get to the MSDN blog, the Microsoft MSDN blog, and take advantage of this offer. It just makes a whole lot of sense. I've got to quit saying I need like a swear jar. So every time I say I put a quarter or something in there. I got to break myself of that habit. So this is the season of quarterly earnings. Microsoft just completed its fourth quarter, reported a $20.6 billion in revenue fourth quarter. There is some controversy about how Microsoft is reporting their earnings. The bottom line is their actual revenue is down fourth quarter from a year ago. However, earnings are up a little bit because in 2015, they did a $7 billion plus write-down of Nokia. And that's probably a contributing factor to why Steve Ballmer went bye-bye, because of the whole Nokia deal. Microsoft has obviously lost the mobile phone, the smartphone war to Apple, to Samsung, to the Android world. They have. They've pretty much failed miserably in that. Let's just be honest. Not to say it was a bad product. Not going to say Windows Phone was a bad product. What I am going to say is that they didn't market it correctly. They didn't get into the game fast enough. And so they started playing catch up after Android and iOS had already taken a huge, was basically the only games in town, really. They put BlackBerry almost totally out of business. However, the saving grace is this. I do believe that Microsoft is going to make one more attempt in the smartphone business, and it's going to be a flagship model. It's going to be branded a Surface phone. There's a lot of people that will back me up on this, some who won't, but this is what's, I think, going to happen. Microsoft is rebranding. They're getting out of that Lumia thing, the whole Nokia thing, and they're going to have a Surface phone. They may make two versions, a flagship and then maybe a lower, less expensive model. We will see on that. I think it's just maybe just a flagship phone. I hope that they do. Let's take a look at the next major story here. And here we go. France objects to Windows 10 user tracking. So this is important to understand. For a long time, Europe was using what they call Safe Harbor. And Safe Harbor basically said, look, American companies cannot store their country's citizens' data in America if they don't meet certain criteria to ensure privacy and security of their data. So, because the U.S. government wants to, of course, get everything on everybody, companies like Facebook, Google, and others have data centers, massive data centers over in Europe to warehouse data of European members. Now, that's recently changed, and is now the safe harbor has now stopped and is declared invalid in late 2015. A new policy called Privacy Shield will be coming into force this month. Microsoft also has data centers over in Europe as well. They don't like it. Microsoft, IBM, all these guys don't like having to deal with this. Obviously, there's a lot more cost and a lot more expense, and mining that data and selling it to advertisers is part of like Facebook's business and others. So that's the thing. But France, particularly in this story, they don't like a lot of the privacy invasion that occurs with Windows 10. For example, Windows reports your app downloads, how long you use certain applications, and France has the opinion that information is totally unnecessary to the operation, performance, etc. of Windows. They can understand certain telemetry. All right? Certain telemetry from Windows back to Microsoft is indeed important. Crashes, maybe looking at event logs, etc. That kind of telemetry is necessary in order to build a stable product. A friend of mine by the name of Jerry Berg, also known as Barnacules Nerdgasm, he was a Windows tester. He actually worked in the testing department for Windows before Microsoft got the great idea, hey, we don't need a testing department. We're going to make you the beta testers, the bug testers. We're going to make you guys do it, and we're going to get rid of thousands of employees. Right. But so there's a certain amount of telemetry Microsoft needs. So that was my point at the end of the day. What's not necessary is to follow you around, for whatever you're doing. How long you used Firefox or how long you were using Chrome. Really, how does that improve the experience of Windows? That is this kind of intrusive. You got to remember, Microsoft is not a U.S. company; they're a global company, and they got to play by various sets of rules. And Americans are, there's a lot of people quite pissed about how Microsoft has been so intrusive with the data collection. And, you can set certain settings off for privacy and then update would flip them back on. Microsoft's been very, very underhanded, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, how they've handled personal privacy. Europe, they take things I think, much more seriously than we Americans do here. I think they take their privacy and security much more carefully, especially what their government does, unlike our government, which would sell us down the river for a nickel in a heartbeat. They want to spy on you. They want to spy on you. All right. It's sort of official, according to an article in Network World. Windows 10 kneecap PC sales. I have not heard that word kneecapped in a long time. Here's the story. According to the headline, 1 in 5 consumers decided not to buy a new PC after upgrading their operating system to Windows 10. So here's what's going on. In 2014, there were 308.3 million PCs shipped. That number fell to 276.2 million in 2015. These are pre-built machines, all right? Pre-builts. They can't really track, custom builds and people building their own PCs, but that's down 10%. That's a 10.4% drop year over year. And I'm sure it's no better when 2016 wraps up. We're probably going to see even more drop. Why is that? That is because many people have been upgrading to Windows 10 rather than going out and buying a new PC to get Windows 10. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of people that have 3 and 4 year old machines, which are later in their lifespan machines. Once they install Windows 10, they said, you know what? I don't really need to go out and buy a new computer. This computer is doing just fine. If the computer is sold in the last 3 or 4 years, a lot of them come with about 8 gigabytes of memory and so forth. And so they're powerful enough to run. As a matter of fact, Microsoft has not increased the hardware requirements for Windows since Vista. You have a PC that was capable of running Vista that could run Windows 7 quite well, Windows 8 quite well, Windows 8.1 quite well, Windows 10 quite well. Another thing, and I want to point this out, neither Gartner or any others are pointing this out, but bear with me. It's the economy, stupid. It's the economy. The middle class here in the United States is earning less real dollars than they did 4 or 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They're making less money. They got more bills, higher taxes. They're paying more for health insurance. They can't necessarily afford, a lot of households can't afford to run out and buy a new PC every 3 years. They're trying to make this stuff last as long as they possibly can. So, this to be expected, and with more and more people owning smartphones, tablets, cheaper alternatives, it's no wonder that the pre-built PC business is going down. It's not going away. I mean, there's always going to be demand for people, and there will be a refresh cycle. Now, I suspect after July 29th, when the free version of Windows, by the way, that's cut off there, I believe, July 29th. After that, you will have to pay for Windows 10. And I think it's like $115, $119 for it. I would think that then we'll begin to see more of a refresh cycle within a year. I think that we'll start to see an uptick and people go, oh, well, you know what? Rather than paying, going out and buying the new version, whatever Windows is, we will maybe look at getting a upgrade, a new machine. Another thing, and this is not, I don't actually have a website here to share with you, but this is my I told you so. This is my I told you so. I said in a video that I called it Windows 365. That eventually Windows would become a subscription service. You would pay a fee every year to get updates and features added to Windows. This is what I said. This is going to happen. This is the future of Windows. And of course, people go, oh, no, you're wrong. You're crazy. You're an idiot. Microsoft said they're not going to charge anything for Windows 10. You're a liar. Now, people didn't really listen to me carefully enough. To it, Microsoft has now introduced a subscription-based version of Windows 10. Right now, it is called the E3 program. This is for the enterprise. They will now offer Windows 10 as a paid subscription. Now, Windows 10 will eventually go away, folks. It will eventually go away. What will it be replaced with? Now, Microsoft has said that Windows 10 is the last version of Windows. Actually, I believe the exact term was last named version of Windows. So what I anticipate is going to happen is that somewhere down the road, when Microsoft will lose that, there won't be a Windows 11, and eventually Windows 10 will lose that Windows 10 moniker and simply become Windows. And at some point, I firmly believe that yes, Microsoft will indeed turn the whole thing into a subscription service where you will pay annually for Microsoft Windows. They're testing the waters right now on the E3 program. They're seeing how things fare as far as making money off of selling bolt-on services to Windows 10 and advertising and so forth. If those numbers don't make it, if they don't make it, then yes, I firmly believe at some point, when it's all said and done, Windows is also going to be a subscription. Every software company out there, folks, every software company out there wants to make subscription software. The idea of buying a license key and it being good forever, that is going to be ancient history. I don't like it. You don't like it, but software companies love it. It's guaranteed revenue stream. Microsoft's they're no different, folks. They're absolutely no different. Interesting article. There's a lot of gamers out there, and I talk to a lot of gamers. I love video games. I love playing games. I don't have as much time I really don't have a lot of time to invest in gaming anymore, especially since I've kind of changed my business model a little bit, but I still love to fire up a game occasionally. I'm more of an occasional gamer, but regardless, there's a lot of people out there that say, I don't want to upgrade to Windows 10. I game with Windows 7. It's just fine. And so far, there's no compelling reason to. When people go, well, yeah, but you're not going to get DirectX. DirectX 12, all that. And, Windows 10 is faster than Windows 7. So guess what happened? There was some in-depth testing as of today between TechSpot and PC Gamer, and they looked at a bunch of different benchmarks. All these games are running DirectX 11, I believe, all these tests, because there's not that much out there right now, if at all, taking advantage of DirectX 12. But if you're on Windows 7 right now, do you really benefit gaming-wise going to Windows 10 at this stage of the game? There's a bunch of benchmarks. The blue is Windows 7. The red is Windows 8.1. The orange represents Windows 10. And you can see in Batman Arkham City at 1440p, Windows 10 has a slight edge. We're talking a difference of 5 in the frame rate, FPS, 5 frames per second gain. Very, very infinitesimally small difference. Shadow of Mordor, almost identical across the board. Same thing with Tomb Raider, both of those at 2160p. 3D Mark Firestrike Ultra, Windows 7, Windows 8.1, Windows 10. Guess what? In Windows 8.1, whoops. Oh, there we go. Almost identical. There's very difference between Windows 8.1 and Windows 10 in performance, or even Windows 7. We go on, we look at BioShock Infinite, we look at Metro Redux, Hitman Absolution, Tomb Raider, the list goes on. Crysis 3, DX11 games, max quality. Windows 10, pop this out. There you go, look at that. Windows 10, Windows 8.1. Actually, Windows 7 is a little faster than Windows 8.1. There you have it. Bottom line. So what's the end result? There is virtually no difference. Whoops. Didn't mean to hit that. Oh. The verdict. The collection of benchmarks above shows no discernible performance difference between gaming using Windows 7 or Windows 10. However, it is important to note that DirectX 12, the newest API developed by Microsoft, is exclusive only to Windows 10. And that means you, as a Windows 7 user, may miss out on performance improvements implemented by the new API. Kind of interesting stuff, I think. If you are interested in the Surface Pro and you think that might be a machine for you, don't buy a Surface Pro 4. Don't spend your money on one. Wait, because Microsoft Surface Pro 5 is going to be an absolute beast of a tablet PC. And let's just take a look at some of the new things here about it. Actually, let's get back here. Here we go. Number one, it's going to feature a 4K display, 3840 by 2160 display resolution. And they're planning to install Gorilla Glass to make sure that all works well with it. Gorilla Glass. Here's the thing. I don't really care as much on a small display about 4K. As long as it's at least Quad HD 1440p. Take that extra money on a display, and I say put it into more storage. Give me faster CPU. Do something other than putting it into... Because at that size, 1440p is going to look beautiful, fabulous. IPS is going to be gorgeous. To me, 4K... I don't know. What do you think? What do you guys think? Do you think that's kind of more of a marketing gimmick? You let me know. Now, the ability to output 4K to an external display, big deal. 4K on a smaller form factor screen, come on. No, I don't think so. Game-oriented laptop, what they're going to do is a modern gaming graphics architecture on there from both AMD and Nvidia. That's going to be interesting. They want to make it a gaming device as well. Play, AAA titles on this, which is very, very cool. The stylus is going to be rechargeable. The Surface Pro 5 buyers will get a rechargeable stylus and dock. As the stylus may be easily misplaced due to the typical size and shape of the stylus, the stylus charger may take the form of a dock that holds the stylus in a particular location. Pretty interesting stuff. Now, let's get to the other part. Improvements in battery life, just the Cliff Note version. Look for it to function up to 7 to 9 hours after it's been charged one time. And finally, the addition of Kaby Lake processors. Those are the successors to Skylake. I thought the rumor was that those would start to be introduced somewhere in third quarter of this year. We're now into Q3. So we'll see if those processors, I don't really know, I haven't checked on it lately. It'll also come with pre-installed with Windows 10 Redstone 2 operating system, and it'll be available in 3 variants for $8.99, $9.99, and $15.99. I would imagine for most folks that $9.99 model will be kind of the sweet spot. You start talking $1,600. It's a lot of money. Now, this may be all, I mean, there comes going to be a come up point. These things are so powerful. Eventually, one of these will be as powerful as at least my gaming desktop PC that I built 3 years ago. It's going to happen. So this is, I'm going to tell you right off the top here. This is an article by Game Industry. This is a very long, drawn out, long-winded article, but so I guess it's not that terrible. Here's the deal. I'll just bottom line you this article. Microsoft rolls the dice in a huge Xbox gamble. What is the gamble? Here's the gamble. The gamble is that when they introduced not one refresh of the Xbox, the Xbox One, known as the Xbox S, they announced 2. Scorpio. And there's the rub. So if you think of this term, this game sales are down for Microsoft. Gaming revenue is down about 9%. The sale of Xbox One hardware is down. They're facing, but here's what they do wrong. See, they were very anxious over the announcements made by the PlayStation 4. They already had the Xbox S ready to go, or almost ready to go. And rather than just staying mum on Scorpio like I believe they should have, they didn't. They said, here's going to be the Xbox S. Oh, and then within a year, we're going to be introducing the full-blown, great improvement, 4K gaming Scorpio. So if you think about the buyers of consoles, right? One of the reasons people buy consoles, they perceive that it is cheaper to get into gaming buying a console than it is a gaming PC. The entry fee might be less, but if you buy a lot of games, and there's just too many reasons not to invest in a gaming PC over a console. That's a whole different argument. I do like consoles, don't get me wrong, but if you look at that market, it's a question of economics, right? If let's say I already owned an Xbox One right now, there's no compelling reason to really go to the Xbox S. Now, is there? Especially with the announcement knowing, let's just wait another year. Why not just get the Scorpio, whatever that ultimately is called? Same thing if you owned an Xbox 360. Maybe I can just make it hang in there one more year. And maybe I'm not able to play some of the AAA titles, exclusive titles right now, but just one more year from now, then I'll just get the top of, it'll be the top of the line. Why buy into the Xbox One? Or if I do buy an Xbox, why not just get an Xbox One at a reduced price? In other words, I think Microsoft kind of shot themselves in the foot, but here's where things get kind of interesting. Microsoft is, for all intents and purposes, what they are doing is they are looking to turn Xbox into a whole ecosystem by the name of Xbox, all right? And that reliance on that gaming console is kind of fairy dust. It's more going to be a collection of services. Now, one very strong rumor is that Microsoft, in its Skunk Works, is developing a way for you to play Xbox games on your PC without a console streaming that game to your PC. Now, right now, they've got a method where you can stream from your console to your PC and play Xbox games that way. I'm talking about a method of doing it without having that console. So this is something on the way. Microsoft also has plans to continue to ramp up the Xbox Gold subscription. 43 million monthly average users of Xbox Gold, paying customers. There for a while, they were kind of a lot of people were having a hard time justifying paying that Xbox Gold price. However, since Microsoft has introduced getting games with that subscription, that's enticed a lot of people. So Microsoft sees ultimately a whole environment of services that'll go under that name Xbox. And maybe there'll come a point where the importance of the Xbox gaming console itself may not be all that important. Maybe it'll become less and less and less and less of a priority to Microsoft. That is where things are kind of getting dicey, and it's all about money. And is it worth spending a lot of money developing another next generation console when we can deliver all this through potentially the regular Windows PCs? So kind of interesting stuff. It's something to think about, folks. It's something to think about, indeed. The last story I'm going to share with you in today's episode, we're at the 33-minute mark already. Wow. I can just talk. Nvidia just announced their new Titan X, a $1,200 card. This puppy would be the most expensive gaming GPU on the market at $1,200. You're getting a beast of a card, there's no doubt. Performance gains realistically between 25 to 35% over the GTX 1080, roughly. They claim more, but then when you take into consideration that essentially this thing has a slightly lower clock speed than the GTX 1080, but it's got more CUDA cores, 3,584 CUDA cores to be exact, 11 teraflops FPS, floating point operations, 11 teraflops. This thing's lightning quick. Clock speed of 1417 and boost clock of 1531. So that does make it slower than the GTX 1080 that ships at 1670 and boosts to 1733. But there's a 40% increase in cores. It's huge. That's a lot of huge. See, this is a kind of card. If I was a professional in the video world, right, and I was big into Premiere, which uses CUDA technology, this could be something would pay for itself. It'd be interesting to see what happens with like 4K plus encoding. So that's what I do. I look at stuff in the world of 4K and encoding and all that. So who's this thing for? Come on. Really? This card is going to be for people who's got money to burn. You could make the argument that you would actually have better performance and for the same price get two GTX 1080s in SLI for the same price of one of these. However, a lot of gamers don't really want multiple GPUs in their rigs. One GPU is better to deal with than two for a lot of people. So there's where we have it. Performance is said to be 60% faster than Maxwell-based Titan X. However, we're talking this versus the GTX 1080. Here's my big thing about this, okay? And maybe this is going to sound petty. Maybe it's not. Why the heck did they call it the Titan X again? There's already a Titan X, right? So what they did is they dropped the branding here. They took where the current Titan X, as a GeForce Titan X is what it was marketed as. They dropped the GeForce, and now they've called it the Nvidia Titan X. Here's the thing: it's going to confuse people. How, if you, God help you, if you're a reviewer, right? Now, how am I going to tag this puppy? I already did a review of the Titan X. Okay. So how do I think of how frustrating customers going to be. Now, when I want to order this, okay, give me the 12. Okay, here's all you got to do, folks. Just say, I got cash to burn. I want that $1,200 Titan X. That's the one I want. And there you go. And this will be the one you get. Kind of silly, because you had the Titan Black, the Titan X. They should have called this Titan something else, in my opinion. It'd make the branding create less confusion in the marketplace. Hell of a card, hell of a lot of money. Probably won't sell that many of them. Ultimately, it's not like these things are going to ship by the millions, folks. Just not going to happen. But there are enthusiasts that's got to have the best, and they are willing to lay down that money for it. For me, I'm eyeballing either a GTX 1060 or 1070 and the RX 480 from Team Red for my gaming PC. I'm not quite there yet for 4K gaming anyway, so we'll see. That's going to wrap up this installment of Talking Microsoft. As always, I look forward to your comments down below. Bruce Naylor, take care. Until the next one, everybody.